So good evening, everyone. Thank you to the Board of Education for having us here to brag about our school a little bit tonight. And I want to thank our art department for the wonderful work you see on the walls. And I also want to thank Rich Albano as our new assistant principal at Mendon Center this year and been doing an awesome job. Thanks for being here tonight. And Rich was actually instrumental in coordinating this photo that you see here that was all of our students and staff. And if you look closely, he's in the orange and wearing a blue shirt. So we'll work on that for next year. So tonight you're going to hear me talk about our CAP, but it's not the tax cap. It's our comprehensive action plan. And our school plan has 4 focus areas. We focus on students, we focus on learning, we focus on a collaborative culture, and we focus on results. And whether we're talking about professional learning communities or social emotional learning, it's all about the same thing. It's collective responsibility for all of our kids. So the reason I bring this to you at the forefront of my presentation is we've adopted a year-long focus on empathy. And when our social emotional learning team met in the summer, we anticipated spending time on other stances like flexibility and resilience and persistence. But the more we peeled away the layers of empathy, we realized it's so multifaceted and complex, and it deserved our full attention for the entire school year. So our staff adopted a resource that was very helpful to us. Dr. Michelle Borba has authored a book called Unselfie, and it's about 9 essential traits that kids need to have the empathy advantage, to be empathetic. So our staff has done that as a study group, and also some parents have done it with Mr. Albano and myself as a principal parent study group as well. And we've learned a lot from the research on empathy, and we've learned that there's really 9 facets to empathy. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is as we move through the presentation, I want you to see evidence of that in the work that we're doing at Mendon Center. So when we talk about empathy, it's so much more than just feeling with the heart of another. It's teaching our kids to listen and tune in and really hear what others are saying. Teaching our kids to have a moral identity with that inner compass so that they're ethical, they're making great decisions, and they're doing the right thing. We want our kids to take the perspective of others, being able to put themselves in others' shoes and understand the thoughts, feelings, and ideas of others. We also want them to have a moral imagination. That's a lot of reading to cultivate empathy, and we see a lot of that at the elementary level, where we're doing a lot of picture books and literature and dialogue about what it's like to be a character in a story. So those first 4 that I share with you are really about developing empathy, but then we move into practicing empathy. So to practice empathy, we need to teach our kids the skill of self-regulation, that mindful breathing, that self-talk, that ability to keep themselves in check. Practicing kindness, they can see, hear, and practice simple acts of kindness. And also that collaboration, we want our kids to be team players who are communicative and work nicely with others. And then finally, we talk about our kids' ability to move from practicing empathy to living an empathetic life. And that's where we want our kids to have that moral courage to stand up for what is right, defend and help others, and make a difference. Believe that they can make a positive change one at a time. So empathy, with that as our backdrop, I just want to go a little more into our comprehensive action plan. With our focus on students, we've really focused on engaging our kids in really rigorous and authentic work. Over the past few years, we've seen a real shift in terms of the topic, audience, and purpose of the work our kids are doing, the next generation skills being at the forefront, a lot more with real-world application, and also that ability to make a difference. This is just our first graders doing some how-to writing on a variety of topics. We've used a lot of the Harvard Project Zero thinking routines, and I just share this example with you. There's a routine called color symbol image, when kids have to read, interpret, and then come up with a symbol, or an image for the text that they've read. And this is our 5th graders are frequently engaging in work like this in response to what they've read. And it's really neat to see them read and apply at higher levels. I just want to read to you because it's probably small to see. But under color, a small group of students, they were reading a novel called Things Not Seen, and they shared, "We chose a knot of color because that represents confusion. Throughout chapter 18, it talks about how confusing Bobby's life is." So just an example of how our kids are taking reading and understanding to the next level. We chose puzzle pieces for our symbol because it represents Bobby's confusing life. Everybody's trying to figure out how to put Bobby's life back together. In chapter 18, it is the Van Dams come, they all try to figure out Bobby's condition. And then lastly, their image. This image represents what is said in the story, it's what I don't see, I'm not there. So just a quote from the book. So just showing what the kids are doing to interpret and take their learning to the next level. Another thing we're seeing that's new is a lot of infographics where kids are using graphic visual representation to either convey information or data. And these are just some infographics that our third graders did by hand, but then our fifth graders are also doing them on iPads and using technology. So it's neat to see the sophistication grow as the grade levels grow. We're seeing more of a marriage of writing genres, so things like nonfiction poetry is an example of fifth grade poetry around a geography unit. And also just writing to make a real world difference. I have a dream that everyone will be safe, and when a storm comes and buildings get knocked down, that we will have many fundraisers for the people in need. So out of the mouths of babes, they're all saving the world. Also in our CAP is our focus on learning. When I spoke to you last year, it was November of 2016, believe it or not. And at that time, we were working on identifying our power standards in math. And I'm happy to say that we completed that, and we've moved on to deconstructing those standards and coming up with learning targets. That's a student-friendly term that tells the kids exactly what they're going to know and be able to do at the end of a lesson. They're I can statements, if you will. Criteria for their performance. Teachers have really peeled away what are the prerequisite skills, and we have math common assessments district-wide, and they've mapped all their work to those common assessments. So these 5 categories, each team was given a template for the work. They kind of repurposed it into their own format and completed all of the areas. Here's just a quick example. For third grade, number and operations and fractions, I can compare fractions, and here was a target for that standard. I can show where equivalent fractions are located on a number line. And then there's a visual example of what they would expect from kids. So each grade level has done that really hard work of determining what's essential, breaking it down into the learning targets, identifying the performance criteria, mapping it to our common assessments. And what that means is a guaranteed and viable curriculum for our kids, but then teachers each have their own autonomy in terms of the resources they're using, how they engage their students, and some of the different experiences that they give them. The third area of our CAP, our focus on a collaborative culture. We have a great number of teams working interdependently to do what's best for our children. So we have vertical teaming across grade levels. We have horizontal grade level teams. We also have service providers working alongside grade level teachers. This year we recreated our social emotional learning team, so there's as many members on that team as our instructional leadership team, and they work in partnership together. So it's not just about let's talk instruction, now let's talk how we make the kids feel good. It's about how do we make our kids accessible for learning so they can be their best, do their best, and make a difference in the lives of others. Our kids are working in a lot of teams too. This artwork that you see here was done at the beginning of the school year, and it was 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. So it started with one grade level making dots on the page after reading the Peter Reynolds book, The Dot. Then the next grade level added to that, and the next grade level added to that. So those 6 compositions you see there are representative of work from 3rd through 5th grade students on each one. And it was really neat to see how they added onto each other's work and worked together on that. Lastly, our focus on results. Of course, we use our state assessment data, our local assessment data, universal screening results, any progress monitoring probes, but our favorite results to use are the day-to-day work of our students. And because we've been doing so much in the area of empathy, we have also agreed as a staff to collect student work around empathy. And midway through the year, we asked all 700 plus of our students the same questions about empathy. And then we collected all the responses, and we had a good time really distilling what they understood, some of the misconceptions, and just really enjoying their responses. So just very quickly, I thought you'd get a kick out of a couple of the misconceptions about empathy. And the little ones always think it's about people falling down. So here's a classic example from kindergarten. I can help somebody up. That's what empathy is. We had a great number of pictures of people falling, laying on the pavement. And we always talk about stepping into somebody else's shoes. So empathy is trying somebody's shoes. That was another misconception. We had looking inside somebody's shoes, all sorts of things. This is probably my favorite. I can empathize to a bird in a nest. The nest is in a tree, and I love birds. So it's been a lot of fun to see our kiddos and where their understandings are and where they're able to apply it and where there's room for growth. And then I love these two on the right. The top one is a first grader, feeling how someone else is feeling. That's empathy with the big wide open arms. And then I love that little fifth grader. It was just a little cartoony edit at the bottom of his work. It's okay. I know what you're going through. So it's been a lot of fun to see how our kids have really internalized the language and how we've seen the social emotional learning have a real impact on their academics. So I just leave you with this quote, could a greater miracle take place than for us to look through each other's eyes for an instant? Well, thank you so much for the opportunity, and are there any questions? Any questions?
Anyone have any questions?
If you ever need a laugh, I will share my binder with you of all the
We
empathy
would love
responses.
that.
They are adorable.
Thanks,
Thank
Heather.
you all so very much.
Thank you very much.